so look, we're going to talk about how to get started buying real estate. First thing is get my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. That is a course in itself, just so you know. And many people have told me that they've learned more from the book than they've learned from half the fake gurus that they took classes from. So urge you to do that. It's got a webinar tonight, 7 p.m. That's in like hour and a half. And if you want to get into that, you can go to the links below, flipanythingusa.com/webinar. Urge you to do it. And let's see what else. You can call in, by the way. You can call in at, let me get the number up here. You can call in. And anybody got any questions, you just fire away. A lot of people want to buy apartment buildings. A lot of people want to buy, different things. I don't know. Everybody's got a different plan. I did this video the other day on Ryan Pineda, Brian Davia, and Mike Zuber, which I'll be going, I don't know if we're going live, but Mike and I are going to do a video here Monday. But what I want to tell you is, and of those three, Mike was the only one that really knew what they were doing, to be quite honest. Brian Davia, he's learning, he's struggling. Ryan Pineda, he's been learning and struggling along like everybody else. Like a lot. He's new. He's kind of new. He's made some mistakes. Hey, Tom, closing my first property end of February. Hey, congratulations, Justin. That's great. That's one of the things. It's getting your first deal. Getting your first deal is one of the hardest things to do. Is getting started. That confidence, and then once you really make a lot of money in your first deal, then you're gonna hardly believe that you can do it again on a second time. By the way, I got a new microphone. So hopefully this microphone's working better. What is it? What up, Tom? How much you need to start land flipping? Well, you know what? I mean, if you find a deal, you can have nothing. And if you find a deal, you can go get a buddy to put up the money and make money on that first deal. And then the next time you won't need them. So you can do it with nothing, meaning if you find a deal, listen, if somebody comes in like me, pay cash, they're going to blow you out of the water if they get there first. But if you get there before somebody like me, you get the deal tied up. And now, that's the key, by the way, just so everybody knows. It's finding a deal, getting in between what somebody has and what somebody wants. That's what you want to be. You want to be in between these two. And you can make money. That's just how it works. And I'll tell you what, I started this year great. I just closed a deal today. In fact, maybe I can share a little video with you. Maybe it's like a junkyard, but it's pure gold. I really think I'll make $1 million on this thing in a relatively short time. And I've got many students in my class now that have made over $1 million a piece, and it's really cool. If residential homes are public, where to find them? Zillow refinance just shows images. Yeah, you're kind of in the wrong spot. You can there's all kinds of, there's databases galore. You can get it all PropStream. You can get them at your local tax assessor's office. When I first started, by the way, I had to dig it out of the tax assessor's office, and I used to get off a thing called microfiche, which most of you probably don't even know what that is. But it was like sliding around a piece of plastic that had 100 pages on it, and you'd put it down on a platform and it would magnify it. I had 2 microfiche readers, and I had like 3 girls working for me that were just moving that thing just a tiny bit, look at the next page, put down the data, putting it in a very antiquated database. I actually should have been the one that started PropStream, because I actually was doing it so long and quick. In fact, there's a place called Data Quick. In fact, check this out. This is interesting. All right, so you guys, this is really dating myself, so check this out. See what that says? It says Microfiche Property Systems. Microfiche Property Systems. And in this box, it would hold like a 3x5 index card that was just pitch black. But when you put it on a over a light, kind of like a microscope, it would project it on the screen in front of you. And so you could go through, and this is how they did it back, by the way, down to the tax assessor. The tax assessor, that's what they had back in the day. This is 45 years old. And I would pay like $500 for this little box. And I had several of them. that's how I would get access to the records that you guys. You can't hear me? Okay, so tell me, you guys can hear me, right? Don't screw with me. Are you guys hearing me or not? Okay, it's very low. Okay, I'll get closer. This is a brand new mic too, so I will mess with that a little bit right here. I can fix it. You guys tell me. Give me a quick response back here, please. I'm showing this is a little better, so tell me that's better. Sorry about that. I appreciate that. When somebody says they can't hear me, I start to worry. Anyways, so look at this. This is a microfiche property system. See that? And what this, I pay about $500 for this box. Look at this. You can see it says, look at it, says, you can barely read it, but it says 1986, 1987. So that's how far this goes back. This is about 40 years old. But this is what you get. And when you went to the tax assessor's office, they had the same thing. You would access it through microfiche. And now, of course, you don't need any of that. Now it's all computerized. But that's how you used to have to dig out the information to make these deals. Good. Hey, thanks for letting me know the audio's good. But yeah, that little box, it was a gold mine, data is gold. Data is gold. But you got to know what to do with it. And that's what you learn in my class, by the way. And I was saying earlier, if you couldn't hear me because the crappy microphone, my new microphone, you just got to know what to do. And if someone can shortcut you to what to do, listen, I pay for all kinds of mentoring of different types. I'm talking about, whatever. Jiu-jitsu is a big one for me. They shortcut you to getting somewhere quicker. And that's what you can get if you can afford it, and not everybody can afford it. And I help a lot of people for free, and I tell people generally just get my damn book. If you don't have any money, get the book, because people can make money with the book. I've had guys write me and say, "Hey, I made 25 grand with your book," and then they get into the mentorship. But if you're already there, if you've got 25 to $1 million, 25 to $1 million, okay, 25 grand, you can get started. Okay, you can get started. You can afford to pay for my mentorship, and you can make something happen. If you've got 50 grand, man, you're just that much closer to making money faster. You got 100 grand, you're kind of golden right there in general. 200 grand, even better, right? Because you can go out there and you can buy a house and flip it. And listen, every average house I buy, I make 100 to 150,000, and I bought 7 of them, and I think in the last 12 months, something like that. And today, actually yesterday, I wrote a check for 900,000, and I paid cash for a building that I think is worth close to $2 million. So I think I'll make $1 million on that deal. And again, I'm not going to fool you. These deals aren't like everywhere. I mean, I would say that they kind of are everywhere, but I don't know where they are. I have to dig them out. And that's what I kind of teach my students to do, is to flush out the deals in their area. And it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter what state, what city. As long as you're in the USA, for sure you're good. Okay? And I got people in Spain and other countries too. They're in the class too, by the way. But if you're in the USA, you're golden. Okay? But you got to have a little bit of money. Okay, and you just got to have a little bit of money, and really that's what I'm really going after right now. Is I'm looking for people that have whatever 50,000, 100,000. If you got 100,000 or a couple $100,000, if you're not utilizing that to make more, you're going broke. I'm telling you, you're going broke. There's no other better way to put it for you. You've got to put it together. So anyway, any question anybody's got? Actually, somebody was asking me in the comments earlier about whether it's, well, they're asking, I have 2 things: LLCs, limited partnerships. You don't need them in the beginning. Listen, I bought 100 properties without ever having an LLC or a limited partnership. You can just buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it. Generally, you're going to have. I have properties so short term. I probably would never even need to insure many of them, and so don't get tied up into an LLC. That's like buying a safe for the cash that you don't have yet. That's something that you need when you have money. You'll need an LLC, or when you have a lot of equity. So you don't need to worry about that stuff right now. It's just something you just don't need to distract yourself with. So if you don't have my book, get my book. And by the way, if you just got here, hit that subscribe button. And number 1, get in the webinar. I have a webinar tonight, 7 p.m. And get in there and you'll learn so much so fast. And I'll bring something up in a second. All right, let me pull this up. So, whatever you guys want to talk about, any questions you got, whether it's, I don't know, it could be apartment buildings, it could be houses, it could be land, anything you want to talk about, just fire away with a question, and I'll give you the details. I can tell you, laundromats in apartment buildings, very important. I mean, you can, I was making $50 per tenant, a month, and I can tell you quarters weigh $22.50 per pound. And I used to have 50-pound bags. There'd be, like I said, $1,000 worth of quarters. It was substantial. And my kids they'd just play with the quarters. We had 5-gallon buckets of quarters everywhere. That's how many you can accumulate in a very short time, by the way. Let's see. What else? Anybody got anything? By the way, I'm gonna just put something to rest here. This Airbnb shit, I'm just telling you, don't waste your time. You're subject to a really problem, and don't do subject to either. It's a waste of time. And I'm not saying in every sense, but it's like, it's something that's highly improbable. It's not worth chasing. It's just not worth chasing. It's just like, if you concentrate on any one kind of property, you're going to end up having to have a very, very big net, cast a very big area. But if you have the knowledge, you can do what I've done. Take a look at this map here. I want you to see behind me. Every one of these dots is something that I've personally purchased, right? There's probably 20 right here, and just in one subdivision. I've got retail. This is a school. Look at this. This is a retail property. These are worth, millions of dollars, right? In fact, this one here, I just got an offer on. This one here, I'll share with you after I close the deal on it. But that's what I'm selling right now. Industrial buildings. Like, here's an industrial building over here. These are industrial buildings. That's one that I own right there. But houses are kind of the easiest thing. And if you get in the webinar, I'll show you how to make, $100,000 on a house, $150,000 on a house, even more on a house. It's very easy to do, and the reason it's easy to do with houses is there's more of that than anything else. There's more of that than anything else. I mean, look in this picture, right? What do you think the majority of the inventory is? It's houses. It's almost all houses, right? And then there's a smaller group that's industrial. There's a smaller group that's retail and industrial and office. And I love all of it. People say, oh, don't buy offices. Everything's gone to hell. It's not true. Listen, I have offices. I mean, I have tenants that pay me over $25,000 a month for one office space, right? They have an office building. Here's an office building right here. Look at that. But look where it's at. It's next to a freeway. Has a ton of traffic in front of it. It makes a lot of money. And it's worth more than triple what I paid for it. Houses are great too. And I've taken houses that are on thoroughfares. You see these 5-lane roads. I was buying up houses here a long time ago to convert them to offices. And like, I used to own this restaurant. That's a restaurant I bought. I owned the next 4 houses in a row right here. And further down, I actually bought a house here for $300,000. It was a steal because it was an acre. It was a 1-acre corner. And I knew that I could convert it to retail, or office in this case. And it wasn't going to be much of a challenge. And I did. And I made I made $1 million on this right away. I mean, back when I did it, like very, very quickly. And I kept it. I still have this property. I built that office building. See that office building? I built that back in 2002, across the street. School. There's a Montessori school. Okay. Very valuable piece of property there. Another one here. This is 20,000 square feet of, I call it flex. It's kind of an industrial warehouse. It's really, the height is not quite as high as it should be. But I mean, for really a productive warehouse. And which, hey, Randall, if you're ever out there, man, we got to get together and talk. Randall, I'm telling you, Randall is an industrial property owner. And I think he's got 100,000 square feet. Maybe he's got a couple 100,000 square feet. About the same age. I think he goes under by the name of 10th grade dropout. But he's not out here sharing what he knows, but he knows a lot. And when he calls, it comes through. Anderson Lynn just wrote, "That's cool. You're getting an offer." Yeah, yeah. I've got actually about probably 10 offers actually, and I'm looking at what I'm going to pick. Yeah, I saw that gold went up to 5K. Now, how this will affect real estate? I don't know. I have no idea, Russ. Uh, it makes me like gold a little better. I never liked gold, to be honest, but I'm starting to like it a little bit better when I see that. Um, but yeah, and listen. You'll find with me, I don't pretend to know anything I don't know. I do know real estate well, and you see me very critical on the gurus because it's really easy to spot a fake when you're a pro. Anyways, but houses, three houses here I made over $1 million on, and like Russ is doing it. Russ is in the class. Anderson's in the class. A lot of people in here right now are in the class, and they're making money flipping residential, and now they're flipping bigger stuff, and now they're in commercial. Russ has actually got a beautiful, beautiful property. I appreciate that picture today, Russ, too. It was really cool. I shared a couple of guys in my class that made that have made more than a couple $1,000,000. I shared a picture of them of when I was 29, standing in front of a 30,000 square foot apartment building that I built, or that I bought. In fact, I'll show it to you. And I thought it was cool, and I asked Russ and another gentleman in the class, I said, hey, send me your picture, kind of like the picture I had in front of my apartment building, and so I could get one of them, because they're about the same age as I was. And that's what's so cool, is I'm mentoring guys that are where I was 30 years ago, basically, and now they're in their 30s, and they're building an empire, and everything's cool. But, man, if you can get into the webinar tonight, please do, because you'll see the same map that you see in front of me, and I'll show you. I'll show you how I made my first million, back in the 80s, and I'll show you how I've made tens of millions, which this represents, and there's just not a better life than being a real estate investor. I'll tell you, it's treasure hunt, but it's a highly profitable treasure hunt, and it would be sad if you missed out on it, because there's just nothing like it. I don't know any other way to put it, to be honest. But where is that? Where's California? Here we go. And here's where I started, right here, right up here. California, I bought a beach house when I was 27, and how cool is that? In fact, I talk about one that I missed, actually, but there it is right there. That's where I live. I had a place on Hollywood by the Sea, really, really nice place, kind of near Santa Barbara. And who do we got here? Let's see. I think I got Russ calling in. Are you in, Russ?
Hey, Tom, it's Russ calling.
Hey, good to hear from you, Russ. Yeah, so we can chat away too, Russ, and anybody here that wants to ask a question, believe me, Russ is super sharp. He's in my class, and he's a big time player, and so anybody got a question, go ahead. Hey, Chris, good to see you in here. Chris Parker, also fantastic student, also local to me down. Yeah, Chris, I got a house to share with you, by the way. A nice one, kind of in our area. Chris is one of the few students that actually lives near me. So yeah, what do you think of gold? I saw that. I don't follow gold. It's just not something I'm a fan of.
I'm seeing it go up to like 5,300 more.
What was it?
But some are saying it go up to. Go ahead.
I missed that last part. What was gold before it just jumped? What was it? 3,000? 2,800? Did it double?
Something like that. I'm not really a big gold investor.
Yeah. Well,
I'm mostly real estate.
Yeah, and I can even tell everybody here, gold doubling in value, again, it's still nothing. It's still peanuts, okay? So just those of you watching that have $50,000, right? Okay, so you could buy some gold, and you're 50, put your 50 grand in gold, and now you got 100 grand in gold, and so you can sell it. But then what do? Now you got 50 grand.
Right.
Okay, you made 50 grand. That's great. Real estate, completely different. Real estate, you can take your 50 grand and you can buy $500,000 worth of property, and you could could potentially double the money on that $500,000 purchase that you bought with $50,000. So gold doesn't even compare. Even with gold doing as well as it is right now, it does not compare. Don't think for a second it does. It doesn't. Anybody want to challenge me?
100%.
It's so easy to disprove that being. Listen, if you're rich, you can live on 5%. I remember when I first started out, buying and selling, and I was making real great money. I was in my 20s making, I made $1 million before I was 30. And that was back in the 80s. And so, but I remember I thought, you know what? Someday I'm going to be rich enough I can live on 5%. 5%. Back then, even the banks were even paying up to 10% when I was a kid. But I thought, I want to be rich enough that I can just live on 5%, right? And because that's what a rich person can afford to do, right? A rich person can afford to live on 5%. But a poor person cannot, because they don't have the cash. They don't have enough money to get there, to do it. So, what's your thoughts?
I was going to say, Tom, I was in the class for 3.5 years, and I thought I knew pretty much everything. I thought I extracted everything I could from you, and then I had a situation come up a couple of days ago. I'm like, let's give Tom a call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got it figured out with Tom's help. It turned out a lot better than I ever thought it would be. Basically, it's a subleasing to another tenant, and they made a commitment to take another floor. And I'm making more money. It'll be a higher monthly rent for me.
Yeah. And so this is one of the beautiful things about mentorship and being in a community like we're at. So like I said, listen, Russ came in, he knows. And I tell everybody, I said, listen, I don't care if you've been doing real estate for 40 years. You'll learn something from me. Because I've been very assertive, aggressive. I was very poor as a kid. I never wanted to I didn't want my kids to have to live the life that I did. Not that I'm bashing my parents. I had very good parents, but they were broke. And what I will tell you is it takes a long time to share decades of experience. And so I appreciate what you just said, Russ. And I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I give out information all the time off the top of my head, and I do know the value of it. Because it takes a long time to actually learn these lessons. But I think what you're referring to is holding them to the lease and having them sublet it, correct?
Exactly. And then doing some other, things that basically increases my monthly income.
Yeah.
By around $4,000 a month.
Nice. Yeah. And this is a building that Russ has damn near, or will have $50,000 a month coming in. One property.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Liam, good to see you in here too. And so those of you watching, first of all, hit that subscribe button. I got the shittiest algorithm on YouTube, so people have a hard time finding me. So when you find me, you should subscribe, because I may not pop up in your feed again. But really, I want to tell you guys that are new here, get in the webinar tonight, because listen, Russ will tell you. Russ was probably one of the sharper students that came in from the very beginning, because he'd already had some real estate chops. But even as sharp as he was, he's learned a lot. He'd actually gone through a lot of crap that I had gone through, and I was able to alleviate a lot of those situations for him because of the experience that I'd had. And similarly, I got into those situations because I was young and just aggressive, and I didn't know certain things, but we were able to get you out a lot of them, right?
Oh yeah. I'm glad that was behind me back. But I learned a lot, definitely.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so it's really, but what I was going to say, Russ, is you've seen a lot of noob students, call them noobs. You've seen some guys come in and make hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That really came in with no real estate experience.
I've seen it, yeah. A couple of guys a year, and some of them are faster, others are a little slower, but they're making money. And then I'm seeing guys getting commercial. Yeah. Like Liam, for example, got his first commercial deal, and then Rich, and then some other guys. I know Chris is looking for a commercial deal.
Yeah, he is, and he's at that point. He's at that point where he can do it. You make your money with residential and land, and then you have enough that you can put some of it over to buying a piece of commercial or office or whatever, retail, whatever, industrial, doesn't really matter. And then you can have that that'll replace your steady income that maybe a job had given you previously, and then it's really kind of home free from there. Anyways,
You know what's funny, Tom?
what's that?
Some of the guys they saw me like working real estate for the last 10, 12 years or so.
Yeah.
And then they see me explode into commercial and they're scratching their head like, what in the world happened?
Yeah. No,
I'm kind of keeping you
yeah.
hidden. But
Yeah.
for the local guys, that's great competition.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I can relate. And so, and by the way, that's what Russ wanted to do. He wanted to move into commercial. That's what he really was interested in, and he's done it like gangbusters. It's really cool. And Rich too, and Steve, and who else? Ken. And I mean, there's several. There's actually a lot of people that don't even get into the class that I converse with regularly that they just can't come in. They can't be a part of the class, but they watch every single class. They tell me when, hey, when you got to update the classes so we can watch it recorded. But yeah, so and that's what you learn about in the webinar, by the way, when you come in, is you'll find out that this is actually kind of inside the backside that I'm showing on the screen right now, and you'll see that you've got a course. But one of the best things about it, I actually have to log in myself here, is that you'll see that the meeting archives, and this is really something. In the meeting archives, we now have about 5 years, right? You're 3.5 or 5 years. I think it's been 5 years. So look at this. It's been 5 years. So look, here's 2025. Look at this meeting right here. And we're at 2026, right? I got to get these updated.
Yeah.
And you go, this goes here. Look at these. These are, every one of these is on average 3-hour meetings. We used to do 5-hour meetings. I can't believe that I could do a 5-hour meeting. I'm getting tired of those. But anyway, we're doing on average 3-hour meetings all through this. And yeah, I know Anderson, you'll be in there. Anderson's talking about getting into commercial next. But all of this, there's 700 more hours on top of the course and everything in here. It's hard. Everybody learns something. Every single class, there's always something to learn. Every mentorship, there's just always something, because some things just can't happen. And like, Saturday we'll be talking about your stuff, right, Russ? We'll be talking about what you
right.
And then everybody gets the benefit of that. And then when they when they run into that problem, they'll go, oh, you know what? I remember what Russ did and what Tom talked about doing a long time ago. Yeah. And there it is. So, yeah.
And if someone's really interested, if they get into the archives, they can recreate how someone got their deals. Everything is documented.
Yeah. Yeah. Liam just
how they come in there, they're learning, and then.
Oh yeah, no. Like Liam was in the very first class, and when Liam first got in, I remember he was like, he felt like I got this after a month, and he said, hey, give the kid my class. Like he's kind of done. There was someone that had called in, and he stayed in. But anyways, but Liam, we've watched Liam make $1 million in the class, and we've watched Liam go through 7 to 10 properties over the course of 5. He was in the first class. Liam was in the very first class, the first group of 30. Chris was in the first class of 30. Chris Parker, right? You were in there too. And let's see. And anyways, it's just it's such a cool thing. In fact, we have a gambler. I say gambler. I think it's a gambler because he buys silver. That's what I think. Anyways, I hope silver went up as much as gold did, because he would be very happy, I'm sure. But
I think it's at $114. Yeah. But I mean, like you were saying before, it's nothing compared to real estate.
Does not compare. Doesn't compare.
No.
Not even close. I mean, and I'll show you. I mean, I look at here. Look at, these are properties that I was buying. These are little lake properties that I was buying. I was buying back in 1985. Okay, 1985, right? So that's 40 years ago. I went through about 70 properties here, and I would buy at a low of, maybe I'd get a property once in a while for $6,000 or $8,000, and I'd pay a high of $15,000. But on average, I sold most of these lots. I resold for $30,000, $25,000, and I was making $10,000. If I had it with a partner, if I used a partner's money, I was making $10,000 on average. But the ones that I bought without a partner, I was making $20,000. I was making twice as much. But I was doing that with 2 to 10,000. I put $2,000 down, and and then I'd owe somebody $8,000, and then I'd sell the lot for 25 or 30, and I'd pay off that note and take all the cash. Or sometimes I pay off that note and I'd create a new first, which I wouldn't do anymore. I'd let them assume the first, and I'd carry the second. Both have their risks. But for those of you guys watching that, please get into the webinar. It's I don't know what to tell you. It's very frustrating when you're trying to teach somebody or tell somebody something that's so good for them, and they overlook it, right? I mean, that happens with having kids in general, right? You go, you're trying to tell them you love them, you want them to know, I mean, my kids are all flourished well because of real estate, and but it just, you can't, I don't want to beg anybody into the class ever, but I'm telling you, it's just sad when I see somebody that's got $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. They got the great discipline of saving. They have this fantastic discipline, and that's a huge thing. They have a discipline of saving, but some of them are kind of got this cheapskate syndrome where they they just don't appreciate paying for information, and it's so stupid. And so you think, it's like, it's like, I'm going to say, look, you're stupid, you're smart, but you got all this going for you, but you're stupid. What do you got to say about that?
I mean, when you're planting a crop, you got to plant the seeds, right? And then you can harvest the reward 100-fold.
Right. And you got to buy the seeds too. It's like all of it.
Yeah. Well, you got to work the field. It's not like you just throw it in and watch it grow. You got to water it. You got to take the weeds out. That's kind of how like real estate is. You got to search for the deals. It's not like you get in the class and then the deals are just being handed to you. You got to work for it.
No, you got to want it, and you work for it. But knowing what to do in the most productive manner is what gets you there. It's just, you got to know what to do so that you're not wasting time. I mean, people get in these goofy classes, and they're told they don't work hard enough, and they're following garbage leads. I mean, think about all these guys that say, we're selling you the picks and shovels, and then you got 10 people buying the same leads for the same area, or 1,000 people buying the same leads for the same area, and they're stepping on each other. That's not how you do it. And people, it's even when we were watching, I don't know if you were watching, but I did a video the other day on Ryan Pineda, some Brian DeVilla kid, and Mike Zuber, who I like. Not that I dislike the other guys, but they were talking about, the young guys especially, is, are you getting out your offers? Have you made 100 offers? In other words, I don't make 100 offers. Shit, no. Listen, that is that's selecting quantity over quality. You want quality. I've related to like this. I used to be a gold prospector when I was 15. I worked at Camp Coloma, one of the biggest, where they first discovered gold in California. It was a big gold rush. And when I worked there, the campers would come in that stayed in the camp. They'd go down there and they'd buy a pan, and they're what they're doing is they're sifting through the sand that the same guys that were there 200 years ago during the gold rush were sifting through, right? But me and my buddy Jack, we would go down with goggles, and we call it sniping. And we would go down and we'd get all the dirt, all the sand, everything off the very bottom, get out of the very, very bottom. And then we get down to the cracks. There's cracks in the bedrock. We call that the bedrock, right? It goes down to where there is no more dirt. Now you're hitting hard, solid rock. And you get down to that rock and you get all that dirt out of the way. Now you're looking into the cracks. Well, the cracks have been collecting gold since gold ever passed. And they fall in there naturally. And so in other words, you spend your time looking for these crevices that are filled with gold instead of going through all the garbage leads or the sand that everybody else has been going through. But you just got to know how to find those cracks. I mean, that's one of the big keys. Is that a decent analogy? Is that a good analogy?
Oh yeah, it's funny because when I was like 13, I went down to Sacramento. There's a river, and they were selling these canning, plates or whatever. And one day I spent like $50 on all the equipment, didn't find a single speck of gold.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was doing.
no, they gotta add it. They gotta add it for you to find it. I mean, if you go into where they teach
Well,
Japan,
you know, it's funny. The guy selling it to me, he pulled out a few gold nuggets. Like, oh, I found them right there. He's pointing it. And
yep.
spent like the whole day, didn't get nothing.
Yeah, and so and on that
Yeah.
point, by the way, I mean you don't have to be a genius to understand that. You know, when people talk about these communities, which they've ruined the word community. A lot of these guys that have such goofy, stupid communities, they've ruined the word because. And I should be really talking more about our community, right? And I have been more so because we have the smartest, the best and brightest community. I just invite anybody to just compare students, right? And Russ being one, but Russ is a rock star in the class, but there's others that are semi-rock stars that are, anybody watching would love to have the money that they've made. But you don't share your treasure map. Everybody knows, and they say, oh yeah, we all shared, we all went on a deal. I borrowed the money for the EMD, and EMD shouldn't even be an acronym. It's so silly. It shouldn't even be, an acronym for earnest money deposit. You shouldn't be borrowing money or sharing, going in on an earnest money deposit. It's such a stupid group fest of making nothing. And every time I hear about these communities, like, yeah, I worked about 18 months and I made $3,000 on one deal. They hadn't even paid for their course yet. It's sad. And where you could be making a lot of money, but you don't share your treasure map is what I was going with that. Nobody shares their treasure map. Okay. And people say, well, Tom, why are you're sharing your treasure? You know what? I'm showing everybody how to find the treasure in their area, and I'm getting paid for it, but I'm showing them how to find it in their area. I have no interest in looking in every city. If it isn't obvious by looking over my shoulder on this, with the screen that you're looking at, I buy everything nearby. Everything is near me. You can do the same thing wherever you're at. And that's what Chris is doing. That's what Russ is doing. This is what everybody's doing in the class. They're finding the gold, right? They're going down, getting to the bedrock, and getting the gold out of those cracks and crevices that everybody else is walking right by. So, and it's undeniable. You can just see when you see the density like this. This is not bullshit. My name is on the title of every one of these blue dots. Okay, and there's a lot of them. So, anyways, I don't know how else to make my point, but I would just tell you guys, if you just got in here, follow the links below, fill out the webinar right away, because before 7 o'clock, which is 50 minutes from now, like in about 30 minutes, I'll be pressing a button or having somebody press a button, and it's going to just update, and everybody will get a link to get into that class or get into that webinar. It'll be a Zoom by invitation only. So, what else? But yeah, so it's funny. Liam says, yep. Liam says Chris was in the class. I remember him. So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, and all the friendships we've made. Really, the friendships that we've made over the years. By just being kindred hearts and being treasure hunters or property investors, has really been a super thing. Really a super thing.
And it's kind of accountability too. We meet every Saturday, and then it's like, hey, what are you up to? And if you weren't doing really anything, it's like, man, I better go start doing something.
Yeah, no, it's true. And yeah, and I do, I'll call people, say, I haven't seen you in the class lately, and then they get back in, and you need it. You need kind of a coach. You don't want to miss out either. You don't want to miss out on something either. And it's cool. It's really, really cool. Like I said, I've seen students do some things that I've never done before. And I've seen, you've made an amazing deal, already. And you and Rich both, fantastic. And multi-million-dollar deals. It's really, really neat. And actually, that's even motivated me. It's like, hey, I got to get off my ass. Students aren't supposed to be making more money than me. But no complaints.
Yeah.
Believe me, it is.
And it's it feels so awesome when you complete something like the one remodel, the 2 buildings. Finally finished everything. Money's coming in. I was like, man, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. And it was a long road, man. We watched you go.
Oh man, that was 3 years.
Yeah. Oh my God! I should show you guys what I was doing today. Oh my God! Yeah, I'll share something with you guys real quick here. Let me see if I can find it. Will that? Huh. Well, it's funny. I've got a major junkyard to contend with, and you in the class has already seen a lot of this. But oh my gosh, what a lot of work ahead. Maybe I'm not going to get to it. Let's see. Hmm. What else? What else is on your mind, Russ, or anybody out there?
I was actually gonna say I was listening to this guy on YouTube, and YouTube you got to be careful who you listen to. But you're saying gold is going up because the dollar is going down, and if the dollar is going down, you know what happens with real estate as far as mortgages. For example, you have a 30-year mortgage. You got it when the dollar was strong. Now the dollar is weaker. That's kind of a good thing because you're using cheaper dollars to pay off your mortgage. Do you think there's a chance if it goes down way far, they'll recalculate that debt? Or you use the cheap dollars?
I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you that it doesn't even matter if you got your ear to the ground, and we always do. You start to see that the values are dropping. You get rid of those assets that are threatened, and you can see it happen before it happens if you're paying attention. That's the other thing. Everybody's so immersed into real estate in our little community that we can see what's happening, and we can take actions. And the fact that everybody has the same high levels of making profit. In other words, we have a high standard. In other words, we want to get stuff for 40 off at least, you know what I mean? Or 35% off or 40 off. 20% off, forget it. It's not enough. It just,
right.
It's just not enough. And so look, I'm showing something too. This is at a property, and this looks like a cluster, but look at these. You can see these colossal piles of car stuff behind me here. This is a property I just closed yesterday, and there is, these buildings are filled with motors. I got V8s and 6-cylinders and 4-cylinders, and the tenant, thank God, he's getting this stuff out of here. But this is gold. These little buildings, as rough as they look, people think, your properties look like crap. Listen, this is this is 10 Ferraris, okay? What do you want me to say? This is 10 Ferraris right here, and 10 of them I didn't pay for, or I should say 5 of them I got for free. In other words, I put down enough, look at all this stuff. I put down enough money to buy 10 Ferraris, and I've got, or 5 Ferraris, but I'm getting 5 Ferraris free, and that's how it works. But yeah, this is just, you guys will see some videos coming on this. But man, there's hundreds and hundreds of tires and rims and motors and all kinds of stuff in here. But anyways, so get in the webinar tonight, and if you put it off, then listen. If you put it off, the difference of going, you might have jumped in, you might have found something that was right under your nose that you're going to miss otherwise, and you might have just missed making $1 million or making $100,000, because that's one of the most common things that happens when students get in my class is they realize, oh shit, they realize that they bought something they shouldn't have bought. The other thing is that happens a lot is they realize they passed on something they should have bought. And that's what information is. That's knowledge, and it's just super important. It's just not just data. Believe me, you can have all the data in the world. If you don't know how to read the data, if you don't know what it's worth, you don't know what to do with it, it doesn't matter. There's so much more. People think, oh yeah, here's the deals, here's the data deals. First of all, they know what quality data is, and then when they do get it, they still don't know what quality data is. It's very, very difficult for people to maneuver without a good mentor, really. You can do it. I started with no help. But I looked at guys around me. Believe me, I studied everybody that made money around me. And, man, you can see the results with guys like with Russ and other people in the class, that what a significant difference it makes to have somebody save you so much time and money and just get rich quicker. I'm watching these guys get rich much faster than I did. So I love it.
I mean, just even like you were saying, hey, use AI to try to appeal some, property valuations and stuff. So we even had a homework assignment where we had to use AI, try to figure out AI, and put it to use. I already used it a couple of times, saved a bunch of money.
Yeah, no, I mean the AI can. I mean, if you get a contract sent to you, you can throw it through AI. If you want to take, I mean, I read everything. I read everything I sign, but you can say, hey, you can say specifically, hey, I'm trying to avoid these types of things. Tell me if I'm in danger with anything that's within this contract, and it may just boom pop show you. But you got this, you got this, you got this, or you can you can say, hey, I want to counter this, but I want to make sure that I got my ass covered on these certain things, and then AI will create that language that you want to add to it. So it really is going to affect the legal community too, I would imagine. But
it really does, Tom.
Yeah.
I had one attorney that was supposed to review some stuff. I'm like, hold on, let me use AI. He was going to charge me $600. Put it through AI, took it 30 seconds. Everything's like, hey, everything's good to go.
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, yeah, believe me, I don't want to get too much into it. I've shared in the class how I've used AI in a couple of challenges, and so it's all very cool, man. So, anyways, I'm going to cut it here because I'm going to try to have a snack before I start this webinar. But those of you watching again, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and get in the webinar. Let me show you what you might have available to you, and find out if you're a good fit or not. And there's a lot more opportunity than you realize, and a lot of people think, it can't be me, and it's a shame because it really can be you. It really can be you. Yet you have these preconceived notions about real estate, how much money it takes, what kind of intelligence it takes, and believe me, it's all wrong unless you've lived it and breathed it. So, anyways, hey, thanks, Russ, as usual. It's always a pleasure. And
always a pleasure.
Yep. And everybody, thanks again, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Take care.